G'day guys, welcome back to another episode of Pete's Gold Adventures. Well, it is trommel build time, yeah. So I guess this will be called, as in the next line of gold thingies, it'll be the Gold Thingy Trommel. Anyway guys, for anyone that has not seen what I'm about to do, I have sort of started a few things, cutting up a few bits and pieces, yeah, but she's going to be a home built trommel. So I'll give you a look at a bit of the set out that I've already got done, and yeah, we'll get stuck into things. Well, about a month or two ago, I did do a bit of a preview video of this trommel build. I did show this set out, so this is the side profile set out of the trommel itself. So that little round circle, that's actually the pulley on the motor. As we sort of come up, we've got the little pulley and then we've got a bigger pulley, so that just reduces the speed. A couple of guide wheels on the side of the drum there, and that big circle, that is the main drum of the trommel, and that's where all the magic's gonna happen. For the ones that do remember the preview video, I did need some mesh for this build, and I was lucky enough that Matt from Matt's Crevice Tools was able to hook me up. So we've got some, I think it's about 12mm mesh, it's 2mm wire, and it's stainless steel, so that sucker ain't gonna wear out anytime soon, so that will be absolutely perfect for the build. And I've also gathered some sheet metal. So yeah, this part, this will be actually the bit that sits under the mesh that catches all the materials to send it down the sluice. So yeah, that's one bit I've sort of got rolled up, but I do have various other little flat bits that are going to get rolled up and into bits and pieces, but yeah. So the sheet metal side's well underway as well. Rightio, so here we go, some of the steel parts. Now, you can sort of see the bearing, the pillow block there, that's going to get a bearing put in it. On the other side, there will be another bearing that matches that. There will be a shaft that passes through. That's actually the transition from the motor to the other side to the wheel pulley that's going to go around the drum. Now I've got these little casters, and look, seriously, I got them and I thought, geez, they look really ordinary, so I'm actually going to get rid of them. So I'll show you what I've changed them to. Well, there you go, every trommel's got to have a bit of bling, so I went out and got myself some scooter wheels. I think they're going to look a whole lot better than those boring old grey casters. And being that they're mounted on bearings, actually should roll quite smoothly. So yeah, at the moment I've only got the wheels on the underside, but yeah, if the drum does feel like it does want to jump out, I can always stick a couple more up on top. Well, as you can see, there's a bit of a hole in the bottom of that leg. That is actually for that tube to pass through, and through that tube will be a 1/2 inch threaded rod, and that will take the wheels. Look, I don't know whether this is going to be strong enough or not. It's going to be a fair bit of weight, and I'm not too certain that this 1/2 inch rod is going to be the one for the job for this axle. But anyway, we can always cut it off and put some bigger wheels on later on. That's not really a problem. But anyway, we'll roll with that now, and we'll see how we go. And this is what's going to be powering the beast. 1 horsepower electric motor. So yeah, just to cut down the noise, I thought, why not make it electric? It's all waterproof. I've got waterproof switches, so yeah, I'll just run this off the jackery and I'll be able to sort of set that away a little way. And yeah, all we'll have to do is sort of put up with a bit of pump noise. But so being 1 horsepower and we're going through pulleys, it should not lose any power. So if you go through a speed controller, it's going to drop the voltage and lose power. So this way we'll be full power. Yeah, nothing's going to stop this sucker from spinning, as long as I can keep the tension on the belts, I guess. Well, here is where all the action is going to happen. So it's an old hot water service, and you'll see why I took it out to replace it. One night we heard a bit of a pop, a bit of gushing water. We found a gigantic split. So yeah, it's done its time as a hot water service, but it's going to do very well as a drum for a trommel. So it's 385mm in diameter, and yeah, the barrel is going to be about 1200 long, with some windows cut in it, with that awesome stainless steel mesh wrapped around and bolted to it. So yeah, should do the job very nice. Well, in a nutshell, basically that's the bulk of the part. So yeah, there's some more steel there, more sheet metal there, nuts and bolts and bits and pieces behind me. But yeah, anyway, it's a little bit cooler. That's why I'm sort of getting stuck into this to a degree. But yeah, I think firstly, we'll fire up the MIG, and yeah, we'll do a little bit of welding. Yeah, so the first piece I'm going to work on, this is one of the back legs. So where that right angle piece comes out, that's actually what's going to have a piece that slides into it that will hold the spray bar. So yeah, it might be a bit long at the moment. I might cut it down, it might be right. We'll just find out once we get to the spray bar section. But yeah, so this is a rear leg. Anyway, I'm going to weld that mitre off We'll see how we go. Also, do you like me? The world's smallest welding table. Yeah. It's an old MIG bottle with a bit of 8mm steel put on top, but hey, look, it stays flat. Alrighty guys, let's get stuck into it, and don't judge my welds because I am not a welder. Okay, like I said, don't judge me because all you welders out there would be thinking that sounded awful. It's supposed to sound like crackling bacon. There was no bacon there. And yeah, stacking dimes, I don't think so. I think I just sort of knocked the pile over. But anyway, the grinder fixes all. So yeah, I do like a dressed weld, just because I can't stack dimes. So yeah, looking pretty. All right, that's one. Let's get another one done. Yeah, gotta love gal. Little bit better. There we go. 2 rear legs. Surprisingly, almost exactly the same. So yeah, pretty happy. They come up pretty well. So next bit, I reckon will be a bit with the pillow blocks on it. That needs to be welded. I'll give you a look. Righto, so this is the cross section that holds the pillow block. So yeah, those little ends, I've actually got to fold them down and weld them off, and that will weld into the side of the frame. I've actually put 2 crush tubes in those holes, so when I do the pillow blocks up, it won't actually crush the metal. It is reasonably thick, but it's not that thick. But yeah, and also weld off the other end. So yeah, at the moment that is actually laying on its side. So I'll get those ends welded up, and yeah, hopefully that will look the goods too. Well guys, there we have it. The cross piece is done. Weld up the ends, lineaged them down so they're all nice and beautiful, and gets rid of my sort of feral looking welds. But yeah, the little crush tubes that go across on the inside, I was actually able to get a little tack on those, so they are pinned in place now, won't fall around when I try to put the bolts in. When everything is horizontal and I'm trying to put the bolts in and get the bearing set up. So I'll give you a closer look, but yeah, it came up pretty good. Alrighty guys, so here it is. So yeah, these little crush tubes, they are tacked in place, so yeah, they won't flop about because it actually sits this way, like horizontal. So when you're trying to put a bolt through and those are just flopping about, bit of a pain. So yeah, the actual drive shaft will go through there to both pulleys. So yeah, good to go. But the end, all nice. Now look, you could just cut this off, but it'll look a bit ordinary. This section here is actually going to go up against square tubes, so I'll be able to weld it off and look nice and neat. But yeah, all these spreaders, they're basically all 440 wide. So yeah, that's what the internal measurement of the frame actually is. But yeah, alrighty, well, I'll have a look and see what we can do next. Well, we have the frame all pinned down to the template now, so that should get it all nice and flat and square and all the pipework in the right place. So there is no crossbar up the top because that's where the hopper and all that goes. So yeah, there will be a big square frame, basically the size of that, like the circle of the drum, and will be hinged to one side and the catch on the other, so you can actually pivot the hopper up out of the way. So hopefully the old template doesn't catch fire with the old MIG, but I'm sure it will get a couple little singe marks going on. But yeah, we can live with that. But anyway, might tack these off, and hopefully the welding keeps improving. Rightio, so there we go, one frame welded up. Now I did run another bead over those spot welds, that was terrible. This stuff is actually a bit thicker, so I was actually able to run a bead on it. I've done it on the reverse side, so then it welded fine. I just got to get my amps right. Anyway, like I said, not a welder, but yeah. Did I tell you the flap discs for grinding? Greatest invention ever. Anyway, I'll get the second frame on there and I'll give that a little bit of a weld job. Rightio, so there we have it. The second frame is now sitting up top of the other frame. Matched up everything nice and square. That piece going across up there, that's only basically to keep it nice and square. That's only temporary, that will come out. We're not welding anything there. Yeah, there we go. Alrighty, so we'll fire up the MIG. We'll get these welded on. Move on to the next bit. Rightio, so one welded frame. Now, this one is actually going to have the guide wheels welded between the frame. The other end is actually going to be somewhat down the frame a little, welded on some rods that run from front to back. So what I have got planned for here, I've got some 3mm plate cut out. It should fit between. Oh no, I've gone the full width. I'll have to cut it down a bit. This one will actually, this one goes between the frame. The other one will actually weld onto a square tube going this way. So what I've got to do, this is going to have to be cut down to go between. It's going to sort of butt into there like that. So in actual fact, say that's sitting there, this will be sitting there. I'll probably take it up that way a bit. Yeah, I've got to cut a bit of a profile out. It's a bit boring just being big, fat and wide. So I've got to drill a hole through there to hold that in place. I will cut a section out of it just to give it a little bit of shape. Yeah, put some holes in it, make it look pretty. But yeah, that is the plan. So that will run across there. These will go on there, way the barrel goes. So I've basically got to take a piece out of it because the barrel is coming through here. So I've got to get it down to here. Anyway guys, I'm going to start setting that out. And yeah, we'll get it cut out. We'll get this one knocked up. We'll see what it looks like. Alrighty guys, so through the magic of time-lapse and editing and all that sort of stuff, here we go, our two brackets ready to go. So yeah, I didn't go through the blow-to-blows of cutting those out, but yeah, I just cut a bit of a profile just to jazz it up a bit. So we also have the wheels here. I put these little washers on the lathe. I wanted to turn them down, basically so they fit within the body. They seem to be binding up a fraction if they went over onto the wheel. So I just turned a couple of mil off them to get them within the size of the bearing. Rightio, so let's assemble this thing. So we're going to have a washer down first, just to get off the metal. Set a wheel on there, wheel on there. So we've got another washer up on top of that. Flip this over. So these are just a 45mm cap screw, M8. Now these are nylocks. So you can't actually crunch these up. The way these scooter wheels work, the bearing, if you put pressure on the outside, it actually does lock them up. So must be something with scooters. Okay, so you basically got to nip them up and just back them off a fraction. So we use nylocks, so they won't come off effectively. Nice. Just a little bit of free wheel there. Now, because I'm sort of, this is all a bit spongy, I cut off some little tubes on the lathe, just so we can do that. What these are going to do, they're going to go down in here. They're going to be like a little crush tube. I can put the bolt through. Now I can do that up nice and tight. Make this thing a little bit more rigid. There we go. One guide wheel assembly done. And now, like if you squash it, there's just no movement. It is solid as a rock. So there's those little cross tubes, just put in there. That should do the job nicely. All right, let's get it fitted into place. Show you where it's going to go. Don't totally nuke my wheels. I am going to take them out. And yeah, we'll finish this weld up. Well, there we go, all welded on. Look, the welds aren't bad. I wouldn't say they're good, but yeah, not too feral. So they'll hold together, especially for this application. I believe will be these legs. So we'll need them to stand the frame up. So I might as well do it now while it's standing or laying down. So I'll get them welded on, but firstly, I'll drill a series of holes in these ones. So you can make it adjustable by putting a bolt through here. Anyway, I'm going to get drilling, and I won't bore you too much with that stuff, and I'll get you back when we're about to weld this sucker in place. Rightio guys, the build continues. Now, I've got these are my little knobs. These are on a bit of a connector nut, just so basically I can wind it out. That goes inside that without falling out. And I've actually took a bit of thread out of there on the lathe, just to make sure the thread doesn't bind up. And in here, I've got a series of holes. So when this is in, we wind it all the way in. That will set up the height for our leg on the back there. So yeah, so this is all on the inside, so hopefully nothing will either foul it on the outside. Don't need things hanging out, so I figured if they're on the inside, nothing should hit them. They should be nice and safe, not going to get smashed. Now I've put the bottom on, so this is the bottom of the leg. I'm now going to weld this off, so it just sort of sticks out that little bit. I'm going to either get some plugs and put in the end, some plastic plugs. I'll see how they go. If they pop out, I might have to weld some caps in. But yeah, I want to make it look relatively neat. So yeah, I'm going to weld this off now, and we'll give that a bit of an adjustment. I'll show you how it works. There we go, guys. 2 locking nuts. So yeah, series of holes. That would be a shocking angle. I think level is that one there. So put them down. There we go. All locked off. That should actually be level when the thing's sitting on flat ground. So all we're going to do, drop down the degrees, is drop down a few holes. We'll get whatever degrees we require, or compensate for that wonky creek bed. Anyway guys, I'll get the other panel, I'll set that up against it and give you a look at that. Well, it's slowly coming together. I think a lot of the fiddly stuff is probably getting to the pointy end where we're starting to really... Next step is basically start welding the frames together. So yeah, there's that one all welded in, ready to go. And on this side, yes, I do already have that other one made. That's not where it's going. It's actually going to be set out a bit further out to catch the end of the barrel there. But also, the center piece with the 2 pillow blocks is already made. I do need to make a shaft. That's just a bit of a dummy one I was playing around with the pulleys. But yeah, those 2 pulleys pass through that bit of steel and through those 2 pillow blocks. Yes, but it is all coming together. So yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. It's not happening super fast, but it is happening. So yeah, hopefully in the not too distant future, I will have that all welded together. It's starting to really look like a trommel. Alright guys, so I've been doing a bit of mocking up. So sort of trying to get the motor in the position of where the belts and pulleys are going to line up. So the one with the dual pulley there, you can see with the 2 pillow blocks, that doesn't actually get welded there. That is up above with that bigger pulley. So it sits about 1 foot above that. Then the double pulley goes around the barrel of the trommel. So yeah, I think I've got it sort of sorted. So the motor is basically going to be at the end of the frame. So above that is going to be the end of the barrel. It's just going to stick past it a bit. But yeah, then into the hopper. So where I've got this end frame here, that's basically where that goes. So that will actually get welded to this end frame. Just have to make sure it's nice and square. Yeah, so that's sitting up there. That is where the barrel will actually sit. So yeah, a little bit of a mock-up, but I think I'm pretty happy that I could almost weld those 2 bits of steel that are sitting under the motor to those bits of steel, and then to the end frame, and we'll be in business. Then I could possibly weld it to the other end of frame, and she's actually starting to look like a trommel. Alrighty, there we go, all welded on and lineaged up. Not to hide my crappy welds, well, a little bit. I do need that flat surface, because I'm going to put a bit of flat bar on hinges that's going to mount to the motor. So the motor can sort of lift up and pivot, so I can loosen the belt or tighten the belt, or basically put the whole thing into neutral. Alrighty, down this end. Got the square on there, it's clamped down nice and tight. I had to put a bit of a gum leaf gauge in there, because sometimes you just need that little bit of gap. So there's a little tiny gap at the bottom, so to keep the gap even, stick a gum leaf in. I've got the pulley bit in there just to space it apart and get it the right width. But yeah, I'll weld this one off now, and yeah, moving on. Starting to look like a trommel, love it. Oh guys, there we have it. That top frame is just sitting there. Bottom frame is actually welded in, so there we go. So it's a little bit of a mock-up. It's just sort of sitting there at the moment. Yeah, gives you a bit of a visual of what actually it's going to look like. We are starting to make some progress, which is very good. I'm very happy to see that. But yeah, so these end rollers just here for the barrel, they will actually get moved in, possibly. I'll have to see where they sit on the barrel, but they probably can't stay there. The end of the drum has got a radius on it to hold the material in. So yeah, that can't stay there. There we go. So the motor is basically sitting on its little perch there. It's actually going to get mounted on a big lump of flat plate so we can lift it up and down to tension the belt and put it into idle. That is somewhat how that is going to be. So the twin pulley, that's going to go up around the barrel to create our drive, hopefully, and hopefully it doesn't slip if it gets wet. Oh well, starting to look the goods now. Starting to get a bit excited. Well guys, this is somewhat a part 1 to the Trommel build. It's going to be a fairly extensive build and it's going to take me a while to get done in between trying to get everything else done and also filming content for the regular channel, I suppose, finding gold. But yeah, if you did like the episode, give it a big thumbs up. It really does help the channel. Like, share and subscribe, and yeah, I'll catch you on the next episode of the Trommel build.